Hello?
Hi, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost my connection. So I think I've said some things and I need to like go over them again. So we are doing advanced JavaScript programming. Oops, programming. And today we'll be talking about ES5 and EX6. So we're actually moving away from um, ES5. So we want to learn about the new ways of doing things, which is ES6. Please, if at any point you can't hear me, just try to like chat me up or something. I think this share window is in. So today we'll be talking about ES5 to EF6. So we've learned the old ways of doing things, and today we'll start or starting from today. So we are going to be using the new ways of programming. So and let me go straight to let me open my screen. Let me share my screen right away. So if you can't see my screen, just let me know so that I will adjust whatever I need to adjust from here because I want us to, you know, I want all of us to be on the same page. I don't want to leave anybody behind. So if there is one thing that's my recording, yeah, okay. So if there is one thing that we've learned this entire time in this course, it is the fact that there is nothing static about being a web developer. Or let me say, there's nothing static about being a software developer as a whole. So improvements are constantly made all the time to HTML, to CSS, and to JavaScript. And even the browsers get constantly updated from time to time. Libraries are also constantly being created. So if you remember, and I told us like last week, like libraries are just pieces of codes. They could be CSS, they could be HTML, they could be JavaScript. So libraries are pieces of code written by somebody else so that we can use it, so that we don't have to start writing our code from scratch. Because, later on in this session and, even if you call yourself a programmer, you would want to like use some libraries, which is very, very, what can I say? You can't run away from it unless you want to keep writing your stuff from scratch. Because that particular problem you're trying to solve, there is someone somewhere that has written a kind of library for that you just have to use in your project. So it is human nature to want to like constantly improve. And in this section, we are going to improve because we don't want to remain static. We don't want to be like, okay, last year we know that there is JavaScript and we can declare variables. How about this year, which is 2020? 2020. How do you do things? What are the new ways to do things? The technological industry is evolving from time to time, and you want to, be updated. You don't want to be doing things the old way. You want to do things the right way and the new way. So in this section, we are going to learn the new features that we'll be using going forward. And if you remember, okay, the first thing I will have to do is I need to like recap some things from our previous session. At least, if I want to tell you like this is the new things to use, I should be able to show you like these are the old ways of doing things, and these are the problems we encountered, using this old way. And these are the new ways of doing things, and these are the problems, these new ways are going to solve that we are unable to solve or we are encountering with the new ways. So it's just like we're transitioning from the old ways to the new ways. So if you remember, right from time, I told us JavaScript was created by the Netscape browser, and all the other browsers started using JavaScript. So Netscape submitted JavaScript to the body called ECMA International. So this is not, it's something that we've actually talked about before. So forget about the history, but I'm just trying to like tell you where we are coming from, where we've been, and what we are going to learn. So they submitted JavaScript to the body called ECMA International so that JavaScript could be standardized and they could say, hello everyone, from now on, use this version of JavaScript on all your browsers. So that is what ECMAScript is all about. And I think I need to like, just as a refresher, so you can do ECMAScript. So it's something we've talked about before. So ECMAScript is JavaScript. Or let me just do a normal programming. ECMAScript is JavaScript. So just know that, know this, know peace. But ECMAScript is just the standard way of calling it. So that when the browsers implement what JavaScript should do and how the browser should reach JavaScript, everyone agrees on the standard. So every time you see something like this, like ES6, because you'll see this a lot of time. So every time you see this, just know that ES6 stands for ECMAScript. If I do ECMAScript version 6. So that is just it. You see EX5, EX7, EX8, and I think presently we're at ES10. So if you see ES5, just know that this is ECMAScript standard version 5. So don't worry too much about these things. They are just terminologies, because sometimes it's good for you to like understand what they are saying. So, so that means there was ECMAScript version 1 all the way through to 6, and we are presently, like I said, I think we are currently at version 10. So it's just like you have WhatsApp, let's say some years back, and every day they are releasing some, or every year they are releasing some versions, or probably iOS users, they know that almost every year they release new versions of iOS. So it's just like we are moving through that versions, and for every version, something new is being introduced, probably to make our work easier, or just show us like, you know what, guys, there are better ways to do things. So that is why we keep having different versions. So version 10 is still new, and in this course, we've only been learning version 5 and version 6. So we are going to start learning version 6 from today. So if you hear about version 6, version 7, version 8, nothing really big about them. It's just like probably they introduce something new, maybe one thing or two things. So not that, okay, Rewan taught us how to like use JavaScript with version 5. So that means if they release version 10, I still have to go back and relearn JavaScript all over again. No. You just have to learn that particular thing. But don't worry, in this course, in this particular section, you know that, okay, it's not that we are learning new things, but we are learning the better way of doing things. So the thing is, version 5, or let me say version 6. Version 6 introduced some new features that are really powerful, and they make coding in JavaScript really nice. And most code bases that you will see in 2020 or later will be using these features that we are going to learn in this section. So it's going to be an interesting topic for me. And trust me, at the end of the day, you'll be wow, like, wow, thank God I learned this. So it's one of my favorite parts of JavaScript now. And anytime I write code, I make sure I'm using the ES6 standard. So I'm so excited to show you some of these new features. And trust me, this is going to make your life a whole lot easier as a programmer. So one thing you might be thinking though is, Ridwan, I don't want to learn something that browsers don't support. You said, okay, they are releasing some new versions, new things, new ways of doing things, blah, blah, blah. But what if these browsers don't support them? So that means we can't really use them. So for example, they release something today, and I'm very sure it might not be that easier for all browsers to implement all those changes. Even to date, some browsers are still lagging behind. Most of us know Internet Explorer, there is this joke on the internet with software developers like, it's just like we say something this year, and before Internet Explorer can even understand what we are saying, maybe 3 years after or 4 years after. So imagine I told you this year, like my name is Ridwan, and next year I told you my name is Ridbay. So before you can even understand who Ridbay is, so that means it's going to take you like 5 years after. So there is this browser that is always lagging behind, which is internet browsers, and most developers are running away from it. So, but then there is a solution. Just don't worry too much, because these features that they introduced, you know, they are supported, and you know why. I will show you why, and I will show you how. So, if there is this website which I'm going to show us, it is called Babel. So, all the new things that they release are going to work and are going to be supported by all browsers because of something called Babel or Babel, whatever language you want to call it. So a few years ago, programmers created Babel so that developers can start using JavaScript features as they come, as they are released. Remember, ECMAScript releases versions of JavaScript all the time without having to wait for browsers to implement these features. Babel allows us to use new features right away. So how did they do that? Well, let's have a look. So this is their website, and there is an option here which says, let me see, okay, you can actually click on this option, but then I can show you something here. So don't worry, I'll type some things, and these are things that we are going to learn later on today. If I say const name equals, if I do const name equals read one, or no, let me do a function. I just want to show us something. So if I do first name here, so first name here, so return, okay, first name. I know you haven't seen this before, but then, I'm just trying to show us some new ways, and okay, this is not. I'm coming. So if I do name, okay, let's try it out in the tryouts section. So actually, I click on tryouts, and we have this. So I just want to do this so that we can actually get something here. So don't worry, we are going to learn this syntax soon enough. So I write this, and actually this is a function. So this is just a way of doing things in JavaScript. Let me just delete this. So this is one of the new ways of doing things in JavaScript. So let me just do it. Okay. So, and this is ECMAScript 6 way of doing it, and it's this Babel compiles whatever I do here. It compiles it to this. Now, what does this mean? It means that it reads my code line by line, then changes it to a version of JavaScript that all browsers know. And they change it to a version of JavaScript that works on all browsers. So now, we can actually deploy our application or websites, writing using the new ways of doing things, and we can put it online after we are done with it. We can use Babel to say, you know what, Babel, I want you to read my JavaScript file, and I want you to transform it into something like this so that it can work on all browsers. So without even thinking about it, you can write all your code in the newest and best way of writing it. So you can see how clean this is. And Babel will take care of changing everything for you so that browsers can read it. So this is very, very awesome, isn't it? So enough of that, and let's go back to to the business of the day. and to something that we really need to learn today. So don't be afraid. Trust me, like I said the other time, don't be afraid. We are not learning something that's huge. We are just learning, is just going to be all the things we've known before. But I just want to show us the new ways to do them. So nothing new, nothing special. Don't be afraid. We are not learning something new. Like, okay, Ridwan, you've been throwing a lot of new things to us, for the past few days, and we don't want to learn something new again. Trust me, I understand that feeling. So, because I've been there before. So, we are not learning something new. So, ES5 and ES6 made JavaScript a whole lot easier and more fun to write. From now on, from today, we'll be using what we learn in this section to write our code because it's what the industry is using right now. Like I said, you don't want to be, when people are in 2020, you don't want to be in 1996. You want to be updated. You want to do the new things the way they should be done, or you want to do things the new way they should be done. So, and trust me, if you go for any interview, they won't ask you about, how to do things in 1996. What they will ask you is how to do things in 2020. And if it is even possible, they can even ask you, like, what do you think is going to happen in the next 3 years? So nobody really cares like that when it comes to interview about maybe what happened in 1965. What they want to know is, are you really up to date? Are you ahead of the game? So if you are not ahead of the game, then how do you cope? How can you bring innovative solutions to the company? No, you can't do that. So they want to know that you know what is new and you can do things the new way. So let's get started. The first feature I'm going to show you is, let me just delete this, and let me increase VS size. Okay. So the first thing I want to show us is let and const. So these are the new things I'm going to show us. So let me just delete first. Let and const. So these are actually very, very simple. So there are new ways of declaring variables. And if you remember, if I go back to our outline, we see this JavaScript variables. We skipped these two guys, which is let and const. And I have ECMAScript 6 in front of them because they are ES6 syntax. So in JavaScript, there are 3 ways to declare a variable. The first way is using var, our friend var that we've been using before. Like if you want to declare my name, I can do var the variable name, then the value I want to store inside that name. And my name is Ridwan. So I can store this. This is what we've actually been using all this while. We've been using var. But we have these 2 guys because in JavaScript, there are 3 ways to declare a variable. The first way is using the var keyword. The second way is using the let keyword. And the third way is using the const keyword. So if you see over here, in this section outline, you see that JavaScript variables has these 2 guys, they are new. And as a matter of fact, the variable declaration that we've been using up until this point, which is var, we don't really need to use it again. We don't want to use var again. Trust me. So moving forward, in our code, we'll make sure like we are running away from this guy, var. And you'll be like, Ridwan, why are we running away? So in this session, I'm going to show you why we really need to run away from it. What are the problems we are facing with var? Though you might not have noticed, but last week I did something and, I actually noticed some things. So I'm going to show you today. So, and trust me, after this section, you know that, oh, wow, we shouldn't be using var. We have to be using the let and const. So this let and const is not that you are learning something new. So instead of me using var name equals Ridwan, I can do let name equals Ridwan. That's all. It's just like you changing all your vars to let. So nothing simple, nothing really difficult about it. Or I can do, instead of var, I can do const name equals Ridwan. So don't worry, I'm going to explain what they mean and why we are using them and why we decided to like run away from var. So I'm going to like, you know, answer your question that you are even yet to ask. So we have been using var to declare variables, which has been really working for us and it has been working fine. But there are some challenges that we faced with var, and there is a need for improvement. So ES6 came to solve these challenges and gave us new ways of, declaring variables. What are the challenges that we face with var, using var? If you remember, last week we talked about JavaScript scoping. If you remember, we talked about scoping, and I told us we have the global scope, and we have the local scope. Sometimes you see in some literatures or maybe some tutorials or some materials, instead of global, they can use parent scope, they can use root scope, and instead of local, they can use child. What else? So you can see child or something like that. But so when I'm using global and local, just know that this is what I mean. So I told us last week that we have two types of JavaScript scoping. We learned the two types of scope last week, the global scope and the local scope. And I told us that scope means the accessibility of variables, where these variables are available for use. Variables declared outside of a function is in the global scope. For example, if I do, let me use my var. If I do var item equals maybe a list of items. So I can do pencil, I can do pen, pencil. Oops. So I can do pen, pencil. This is a global variable, but if we have a function of items, and I do this, var items equals whatever we have. Let's say, okay, we have, instead of this, we can have basket. So equals basket, and what else? We can have shirts. So variables declared outside of the function is in the global scope, which is this item variable, which means that this variable is available for use in the whole window, in the whole code. While variables declared inside of a function is a local scope. It's a local scope, which means that the variable can only be accessed from within that function and can't be accessed outside this function. So let's take a look again at an example. So I'm going to delete this. Let me comment all this out. So I commented this out. Global scoping. Okay. So for example, let's say I want to have another variable greet, and I can say, hi, how are you doing? Then, like we did the other time, we can do my function name equals var answer. Okay. So we have this. So in this example, variable greet is globally scoped because it is outside of this function and it is available throughout the window, while variable answer is inside of a function and it is locally scoped, and it can only be accessed inside that function, inside this particular function. So if we do something like, let's say outside of this function, I want to access, let's say I want to access the answer. I can do console.log. If I do console.log answer, let's copy this and paste it in our console so that let's check what we are going to get. So if I do this now and I send, we got an error. Answer is not defined at this particular line. So it means that we can't access answer outside this function, but we can access greet. So if I do console.log, okay, instead of answer, because greet is outside of that function, I can do console.log greet. So if I copy this now and I go back into my console, I can access greet. You see that I have the answer. And inside this function, I can access the answer variable because it is locally scoped and I'm inside that local environment to access it. I hope we understand. So that is what I actually tried to explain last week, and I'm very sure we actually understand. So, and if you remember something, you know, variables can be redeclared and reassigned if they are in the same scope, and you won't get an error. So if, let's get an error first so that we will correct that. If I do, we have answered already. So if I want to reassign greet, I can do var greet equals good afternoon, because we already, this is 12:37. So var greet equals good afternoon. If I copy this now and I come back into my console and I paste this, so if I check greet is what? Good afternoon, because it has been reassigned. What we have before for greet is hi, how are you? So I can also do something like this. Instead of, let me just delete this. I'm going to be copying it with the function. So I can also do something like this. Instead of, redeclaring it, I can reassign. So far we've declared it before. I can say greet equals, let me do good morning now, just so we see. So if I do this, and I copy this into the console, and I see that we have good morning. But, I'm doing this because they are in the same scope, in the same global scope. What if I want to redeclare the answer variable? If I want to do that, and I'm doing it outside that function, answer is what? It's a local variable, local scoped, or locally scoped variable, whatever English. So if I want to reassign this outside, like answer equals I am not fine. I am not fine. So if I want to reassign or redeclare this outside, I'm going to have some issues. Let me reassign it outside. And if I copy this now and I do this, I got this Y. Yeah, this is what we are actually trying to explain last week. So let me refresh. If I do this now, because it's inside the function, let me just copy this. It's outside and I refresh. Why? Oh, because it's still using the declaration something. So if I answer, I get I'm not fine. Why is that? Because it has been added to that particular window before. So if I refresh now and I come here and I copy this and I go back here, oops, and I send, I'm not fine, it's still getting printed out. Something is wrong. So, but then I will use Hoisting to explain some things. So last week, I made mention of a term, which is Hoisting. So it is Hoisting like this. So what is Hoisting? Last week I promised there was something happened like what we're actually trying to do here, and we are getting it up. What is Hoisting? Hoisting is a JavaScript mechanism where variables and functions declarations are moved to the top of their scope before code execution. So if it is a global scope, the variables are moved to the top of the window. If it is a local scope, the variables are moved to the top of the function. So hoisting is a default behavior in JavaScript where declarations are moved to the top. For example, we can do something like this. let me just comment these guys out for now. So we can do something like this. You know, I want to do, oops, I can do console.log, console.log. I can do greets. If I do greets now and I go back here, we have, okay, good morning. This is still, I think I need to refresh the window because that is still accessible inside that particular window. So I refresh and I do console.log greet. Yep. So I got an error. So if I do console.log greet, I got an error, then we can declare it later. Greet equals let me use something else. I read one so that we see that we are not accessing what we already have in the window. So if I do this now, I read one, I got undefined. If I do greet, I got read one back. So this particular code will be interpreted by JavaScript to mean something like var greet, then console.log greet. So if you use a variable before you declare it, JavaScript will translate it for you as you declaring it first, then using it later. So it will do this, then it will now do, it will translate it to greet equals I read one. This is basically what JavaScript is going to do. If you write your code like this, it's going to translate it to this, like, okay, you mean var greet, then console.log greet, then you assign greet to read one. So in JavaScript, a variable can be declared after it has been used, just like this. So in other words, a variable can be used, before it has been declared. So it's just like the same thing, but I'm just using different, just trying to, like, in case you want to, like, understand very well. So a variable can be declared after it has been used, or it means a variable can be used before it has been declared. So the problem we had with declaring variable with var and why we stopped using it, I think I'll use some examples to explain so that I don't sweat it out, like, So should we use, let me just delete all this. Let's delete this. I want the hosting. Okay, I want this to be there. So if we do something like var greet, I'm still using the variable var. If we use something like var greet, hi, how are you doing? Oops. If I do something like this, and I do something like var number equals 6, and let's write an if statement. If number is greater than 3, then within here, reassign and do hello there. You see that? And outside, you can do console log print out greet for us, whatever value we have to greet. So this is going to work. Let's try it. And what we are saying here is, if number, which is 6, is greater than 3, and this is going to return true. If this is true, then declare a greet with an variable and store this value there. And you know that we already have a variable declared outside. So this if is going to change this and print out something. So let's see. So if I refresh this now and I do, so we get hello there, which is inside that block of code. So this works perfectly because number is greater than 3 and it returns true. And inside the if block, the variable greet is redeclared to have this variable hello there. So this is not actually a problem if you really want the variable, this variable greet to be redeclared. But it becomes a problem when you do not realize you have declared the variable greet before. Let's imagine you have thousands of codes there, and you have this greet declared somewhere, and you want to have some function, and you don't want it to be redeclared. So this becomes a problem. So if you use, the variable greet in other parts of your code, it's going to introduce some bugs and might cause unexpected outputs. So let me use another example for just to show you what I actually mean, so that we are going to understand the problem we are having with var. So I want to say, like, the name of our president in 2020 is Buhari. So if I do Buhari here, and I do if 2023 is greater than 2020, if this is true, then do what? Var name equals read1, and console.log, let's do my name is plus name. So console.log my name is whatever value name is. Then outside this block of code, console.log the name of the president of Nigeria. Let me increase this screen size. The name of the president of Nigeria in 2020 is plus name. So I actually want to show you the problem we are having with var and why you need to stop using var. So if I do this and I go back into my console, I do this and I do this, go back into my console. If I do this, you see, if I do this, like, I declare a variable name equals Buhari as a value, and I console.log the name of the president of Nigeria in 2020 is plus name. So if I do this, we get the name of the president of Nigeria in 2020 is Buhari. So which is, quite what we want. But what if I do this? Like I say, var name equals Buhari, console.log, but inside this code, if this is true, then var name equals read1, then console.log this out. So I'm going to copy this. Let's refresh. So if I do this now and I send, I got the name of the president of Nigeria in 2020 is read1. So definitely something is wrong. So imagine I have this name assigned to Buhari, and later on in my code, I'm trying to do some other things, like, okay, if these are not related, like this is just a piece of code on its own. Like if 2023 is greater than this, which is true, then name should be this, and console.log this out for me. So definitely this and this line of code, they are working separately on their own. They are just minding their own business. And this guy too, he should be minding his own business on his own without minding whatever happened there. But with our variable name, with we declaring our variable with var, then we are going to have a lot of issues. So hoisting is an unknown or overlooked behavior of JavaScript to many developers. So if a developer doesn't really understand what hoisting is, their programs may contain bugs. It may contain a lot of errors, and it might be very, very difficult for a developer to debug, or to get where the errors are coming from. So to avoid bugs, always declare variables at the beginning of every scope, since that is how JavaScript reads your code. JavaScript reads your code from top to bottom. So in ES6, ES6 introduced let and const, which comes as an improvement to var declaration, and it solved the problem we had with var. Variables declared with the var keyword cannot have block scope. For example, if I use var inside this block of code like var y equals 4, no, this can be accessed outside of the block. It can be accessed outside of this block. But let and const, if I use let and const like let instead of var, let y equals 5, this cannot be accessed. This variable y cannot be accessed outside of this block. So redeclaring variables using var keyword can impose a lot of problems like we face there. Redeclaring a variable with let keyword can solve this problem because redeclaring a variable inside the block will not redeclare the variable that is outside the block. So I'm still going to use this, my Ridwan is the president of Nigeria, as another example, so that we are going to understand what we have, and the kind of problem we are trying to solve. So I'm going to say, what can we use there? We can say var declaration. So this is var declaration, and this is let declaration. So if I do this now, and I change, let's say I'll leave this as var. So I want to redeclare this now. If I do let, so you see what is going to happen. So again, let me copy this code and show us the behavior. So presently, if I copy the first code we have with var, and I do this, see that it changed the name of the president of Nigeria is Ridwan. But if I do this, or let's change this to let too, so that we know that we are not dealing with var. So if I do this, if I copy this, I've changed my variable from var to let. So if I copy this now, and I go back into the console, and I refresh, I see that we have the name of the president of Nigeria is Buhari against using this. Let me use this now. I think we are going to get an error. Yeah, we get an error because it has been already declared. You can see that we got an error, and this identifier is telling you like, you know what, the name you are trying to use has already been declared. So that means you have to go back and check there is an error. So I hope we understand. So talking about hoisting, variables declared with var are hoisted to the top, while variables declared with let keyword are not hoisted to the top. So the second keyword, ES6 or ES 2015 introduced for declaring variable is const. So which is const. And variables declared with const behave like let. They behave like let variables, except that they cannot be reassigned. So like const, you can see const as constant. It is constant. You can't change them. Like let's say, I think in mathematics we have const. We can do const pi equals, I think 3.142 or something. I can't remember. So, oops. Variables declared with const cannot be reassigned. So you can't do something like, with our var keyword and let keyword, we can do var name equals read1, var name equals read1, and now name equals, we can just change this and say, okay, name equals Ben. So we are reassigning. I can say name equals Ben. So if I go, let's check this out. So if I go into my console and check, so if I check in my console, I can see that, oops, I have to refresh my browser so that we get an empty copy of the browser. So if I do var name equals read1, and I say, okay, now name equals Ben. So if I check now, if I check name now, name is what? Name is, name equals Ben. the same thing with let. So if I do let name equals, or let's use something else. Let's say first name, let first name equals, whose name can we use? Let's use Lawal. First name equals Lawal. And now I want to change the name to the first name to be equals to, let's use Latif, to be equals to Latif. So I'm reassigning another value to that variable. So if I do this now, and I check first name, I see that first name has been reassigned. But with constant, with const, if I do const name equals const name equals Popola. So if I do const name equals Popola, and I want to reassign another value to that name, you know, like, okay, now name is not equals to Popola, but name equals Balogun. If I want to reassign another name to this, there's going to be some issues. Let's see. So if I do this now, I got error. Uncaught type error, assignment to constant variable. You see that? To constant variable. So you can't reassign another value to a constant. So the constant keyword creates a read-only reference to a value. The variables declared by let keyword are mutable. Like mutable is just some of the words like you hear constantly when it comes to like JavaScript programming. Mutable. And another word is immutable, which is the opposite of mutable. So variables declared by let keyword are mutable. It means that you can change their values anytime you want. So with var, with let, you can change their values anytime you want. However, variables created by the const keyword are immutable. In other words, it means you can't reassign them to a different value. So trying to reassign a constant variable will result in a type error, like we get here. It's going to result in a type error. So JavaScript const variables must be assigned a value when they are declared. You know, we can do something like, for example, we can do something like let name equal, or let name. I can say, okay, I just want to have let name. Then later on in my code, I can say, okay, name equals read one. This is going to work perfectly. Like, let's copy this and go back into the console. Let me refresh. So I have a new refresh copy of the window. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of things running on high. So I can do something like this, and I get a value back. What is my name? My name is read one. So this is correct. But with const, you can't do something like const, let's say last name. Okay. Const last name equals Balogun. And now I want, I want to just const last name. Then I want to say, I want to say last name now equals Balogun. I can do it with let, I can do it with var, but with constant, I can't do this. So let's try it and let's see what we are going to get. So if I try this in my console, I got an error. You see that? Syntax error. Missing initializer in const declaration. So this means that you have to assign a value when you declare a const variable. So, you know, you have to declare it just like this. If I want to declare it now, I will do something like this. So if I do this, this is perfectly okay. So one thing with constant is you can change the values, you can change the properties of the constant object. So if it's an object, you can change it, but still, you can't reassign the variable. For example, what do I mean by this? So let's say let me oops, let me comment this out. So let's say I have an object and the object is a person and the person has some values, some properties. So the name of the person is Ridwan. Don't mind me, I'm using my name too much today. His name is Ridwan. And how tall is Ridwan? Okay, his height is let's say 1 point, let me do 1.83 meter. Is that tall? Then nationality, his nationality is what? Is a Nigerian. Then I think this should be fine. So we have a person object. So you know that we are using const, and we see that you can't reassign the value of const. But when it comes to objects, you can change the properties of an object, but you can still reassign a variable to it. So as in reassign the variable. So let's say presently I have this, and I can do something like, okay, the person dot name should change to, instead of Ridwan, this should change to Balogun. This works perfectly. I can also say person dot his nationality should change to, instead of Nigerian, Ridwan is now an American. This works perfectly. You know, if I let's try this. If I go here and let's refresh. If I paste this, you know, if I check person now, the object, you see that it has changed. So now we have name to be Ridwan and nationality to be American. This works perfectly. But if I want to do something else, probably I'm not changing the properties. I want to change the const variable as a whole. So equals, let's say, name equals Balogun. If I want to do it this way, and I want to say the height is still the same thing, so I can just copy this and change, because I'm getting tired of typing and retyping. So I want to say, okay, nationality is now American instead of Nigerian. So I have this const already. So if I do this now, you know, I'm going to get an error. So if I do this, you see this, identifier person has already been declared. So you cannot reassign a constant object, but you can change the properties of a constant object. The same thing applies to arrays. And if you remember, we have two data types in JavaScript. We have the array and we have the object. So with arrays, you can change the elements of a constant array. For example, if we do const, let's say we do const fruits equals an array, and we have orange, and we have mango, and we have purple. So we have this. If I want to change, let's say I want to change my orange to banana, I can do something like fruits at index of 0, which is the first item on the list, should change to banana. So I can do this. So if I copy this now and I go into my console, let's refresh this, and I do this. If we check the fruits array, we can see that it has changed. We now have banana, mango, purple. But if I want to reassign this particular fruit array, if I do const fruits equals, so instead of now having orange, I have, let's say I have mango first, and I do, what can we do? Mango, banana, let's do pineapple. So if I do this, let me just delete this. So if I do this and I copy this into my console, you will see that it's not going to get, you see that identifier fruit has already been declared. So that is that about that. I hope it's clear. So if it is not clear, we can ask questions. But if it is clear, we can just let's move on to the next